Hi everybody, this is Kat from Fowl Fortress Farm. Yesterday we harvested our chickens and I reserved several pieces parts that people don't normally use for some good use in the kitchen. I'd like to show you today how to clean, prepare, and cook a gizzard. Here we have a gizzard. And if you remember, gizzards are effectively a chicken's stomach. They're a muscle, and when a chicken eats grit or small stones as they're foraging, it goes down into the gizzard and the muscle uses those stones to help grind up the food that the chicken eats. So then it goes through the digestive tract and the chicken can get the nutrients. One of the first things I do with gizzards is I put them right into the refrigerator. Don't work with a gizzard that's fresh from the chicken. It's going to be a pain. So go ahead and refrigerate these overnight. You can probably even leave them alone for maybe 3 nights if you want to in the refrigerator. Let's take a look at this gizzard. It's basically circular, but it's a flattened circle. And if you notice, there's some, well, for lack of a better word, tendons, it's probably more like silver skin, on either side of the gizzard. You're going to be wanting to trim these tendons or the silver skin off, and I'll show that to you in just a little while. But first what we're going to do is we're going to get the interior sac that's filled with vegetation and grit out. What you're going to want to do is come on one of the sides of the gizzard with your sharp knife. Go ahead and cut into this. It is a muscle, and it's kind of a teardrop shaped muscle that kind of goes like this. And you're going to cut down a little bit until you see a white membrane. Hang on one second, I'll get to it and then I'll go over to the other camera. Alright, there we go. There's the white membrane, and as you can see, I've sliced just a little bit of it out. And you can see the kind of greenish interior sac. Try not to puncture that, because then you can then you'll have grit and stuff all over the place. All right, but now I see that tear, and it's going to keep tearing. So let me go over and pull that apart, and you see how easy it can come out. Now I normally do this over the kitchen sink, but I have a bowl right underneath this because you don't want any of this to go down into your drain, especially if you have an incinerator kitchen disposal, because the little stones in here won't be good for it. Okay, then you can rinse this off a little bit if you like, if it's got a little bit of grass on it, and we'll get to trimming that up in just a moment. But let me go ahead and show you again with another gizzard. Again, I'm going to go ahead and take off the excess fat because it makes it a little difficult to handle. Going along the flat side over here. And it doesn't matter really which side you go on. They're both muscles. It's mainly just kind of going a little bit slowly so you don't pierce more than that first membrane. Okay, there we go. I can see that membrane. I'm going to use my very sharp knife to just score it so that membrane and that membrane only begins to tear. See that little score right there? Now another thing too is if it wants to be difficult releasing, if you can work your fingernail under it, it'll eventually pull away. If this interior sac does break, don't worry about it, it's not a tragedy. You'll just have to rinse off the gizzard a little bit more thoroughly. And as you see, this one is tearing just a little bit. Alright, there we go, and that's garbage. Alright, so these are cleaned gizzards, and now I'm going to need to prepare them for cooking. I'm going to wash my hands first and rinse this down, and I'll be right back with you. Okay, we've cleaned the gizzards. Now we're going to prepare them for cooking. I've rinsed these off. And you see now, here's the exterior of the gizzard, and you see the silver skin like membrane or tendon, I don't know what to call it, on the outside. This muscle is whole, and this muscle has been cut in half. On the other side, the interior, you see the membrane that we nicked when we opened up the gizzard and then peeled it away from the actual sac that held the contents of the gizzard, the grit and everything. What I like to do is, I'm going to cut through this membrane, and I'm going to just skim so that this silver skin is the only thing that comes off. So that way we preserve most of the muscle. So basically I get my knife tight up against the muscle, cut down a little bit so I'm through this interior membrane, and then I hold my knife almost parallel to the cutting board and just skim it off. And you see, there's that silver skin type membrane. Okay? But it's very important that you only do it from this side, from the interior membrane. Alright, here we go one more time. Okay. Now this one, although it's got a lot of fat, which I normally like, I'm going to just clean it up a little bit. Just a little bit. And now I'm going to slice it in half so I have bite-sized pieces. Now what I want you to do is I want you to listen closely, and I hope it comes through. Listen while I cut this. It almost sounds like cutting an apple open. Don't worry about it, it is very normal for this muscle, but I just wanted you to hear it, I hope, because it's an interesting sound. That goes in the save. And now again we do the sides. Oh, that was a good one. Oops, come on you. There we go. And again, just a piece of meat with this interior membrane. Alright, let me do one more for you. Again, get up close and skim that tendon off, whatever it is. I keep changing the names of it, don't I? Okay. This came pretty clean, but I'm going to trim just a little bit. No, that's actually good. Cut it in half. Bite-sized pieces. There we go. Again, remember to do it from this membrane side so that you can get that silver skin off. Oops. There we go. All our gizzards are prepared, and now we're going to cook something really delicious. Okay, so we have cleaned and prepared the gizzards. Now it's time to cook them. This is my recipe for curried gizzard stew, I guess you could say. And it's very simple, and it's a great way to make the gizzards very tender and very delicious. I use my Instant Pot, but you can also use a regular pressure cooker, or if you don't have an Instant Pot or a pressure cooker, just remember to cook it very low and very slow on your stovetop or even in your oven. Basically, what you'd want to be doing instead, if you're not using a pressure cooker of some sort, you're thinking a braise. So, here I have my chicken gizzards right here, and this is probably about, 2, maybe 3 pounds worth of cleaned chicken gizzards, and they're all cut into bite-sized pieces. I also have 2 cups of chopped onions, probably about 1/3 of a cup of chopped garlic. Now, you need to remember, I'm the type of person who loves garlic. And for me, when I see a recipe that says 1 clove of garlic or 2 cloves of garlic, I always think immediately, oh, I have to at least triple that. So you need to remember, make sure that you choose the amount of garlic that makes you happy. I also have some grated ginger. I use this little thing here to grate the ginger, and basically I just peel the ginger, and this is a very cheap tin spoon that I got from Spain many years ago, and it bends really easy, but it's got a very sharp edge, so it takes the skin off ginger very easily. And then you just grate. And what I'm looking for is probably about 2 tablespoons of grated ginger, roughly. That's close enough. There we go. All right, go ahead and put that over here. I also have about 2 tablespoons of tomato paste and 1 teaspoon of harissa sauce. Let me show you the ones that I use. Here's the tomato paste, and here's the harissa sauce. And the main thing I'm interested in showing you is they're in tubes, particularly the tomato paste. A lot of times tomato paste comes in a small can. When it comes in a small can, I tend to use just a little bit of it, and then it sits in the refrigerator and dries out. So my big recommendation is, when possible, buy your tomato paste in a tube. It will last longer. Alright, so as I said, about 2 tablespoons of tomato paste and about 1 teaspoon, 1.5 teaspoons of a harissa sauce. Oh, before I forget, harissa sauce is actually very spicy. The first time I used it, I didn't realize how spicy it was, and the dish was, shall we say, incendiary.
It was bright.
Yes, it was very bright. So I would say start with only a little bit and add more if you like. Again, though, if you can't get harissa sauce, something like red pepper flakes to your taste, or maybe a mix of some hot peppers that you dried from your garden, would be perfectly suitable for this. Okay. I also have here a pint of whole tomatoes. I'm going to make this a little bit less soupy than my last one. The last one I used 2 of these, so you can use 2 pints or 1 pint. It depends on whether you want it soupy or if you want it a little bit more coherent. Well, cohesive. That's the word I want.
Because you're not coherent.
No, I'm never coherent.
It runs in the family.
Yes, it does.
One might even say it gallops.
I love my family. They're so crazy. Then, of course, the ubiquitous and necessary salt and pepper. And yes, this is home ground pepper. I'm a big fan of home ground pepper. And then, if I wanted to add a little bit more liquid, because again, with a pressure cooker, you need a certain amount of liquid so that it can get up to pressure, I have some homemade smoked turkey stock. And in a later video, I'll show you how I make our smoked stock. It's very delicious, and you should substitute it for water when you make mac and cheese.
It's so good.
Yes. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. I am going to set my Instant Pot to saute. Of course, if you're using a regular pressure cooker or a casserole on the stove initially, just go ahead and get it heating up. Alright, so my Instant Pot is warm, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some butter, which I forgot to mention in the list of ingredients, but I'm going to probably take about 2 tablespoons of butter, and please use butter. Butter is good. Butter's good fat, especially if you can get grass-fed butter. Then you're really spoiled. And let that heat up. Alright. I added about 2 tablespoons of butter that's melting right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 2 cups of onions the garlic. And again, I put a lot of garlic in. Make sure that you adjust to your tastes. But for me, the spicier this dish is, the better. Okay, and then here's my ginger. I'm going to put that in now too. All right, I need to get a spoon. All right. Mix that up a bit. And then I'm going to want to season with my salt and pepper. Oh, I'd say maybe about a teaspoon, a little bit over a teaspoon. Say a rounded teaspoon. Pepper, well, you know I like it hot. Let's do a teaspoon and a half of pepper. Stir that up again. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to let this saute until the onion turns translucent. You can brown it a little bit if you want, it doesn't really matter, but you don't want to get it caramelized. So a little bit of browning is fine, but otherwise translucent will be sufficient. Alright, our onions, garlic, and ginger have been sauteing for about 3 or 4 minutes, and the onions are nice and translucent. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the curry powder in and saute that for a couple minutes to toast it. Now again, all these principles are the same up to almost, well actually past this point, whether you use a pressure cooker or a casserole that you're going to use as a braise. It smells delicious. Now it's time to put in the tomato paste and the harissa sauce. Stir that up a bit. And now is when I put in the gizzards. What you're going to want to do is stir the gizzards into the onion, tomato, spice mixture and get them very well coated. Yes, that looks good. Now I'm going to add my tomatoes. And I already pre-opened this, so I didn't do that on camera, because that would be terrible. And you can either leave them whole when you put them in, or you can crush them as you go. There we go. Mixing that up. You know what? To me, that looks a little bit dry, which is okay. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to add, about a cup of my smoked turkey stock.
And if you didn't have smoked turkey stock?
Well, if you didn't have smoked turkey stock, you could use just, regular turkey or chicken stock. You could probably even use beef stock, although that might be a bit of a stretch. If you didn't have any stock, particularly homemade stock, water would do, or, you know what, you probably could also do a very light wine. Light red or a light white would also provides that liquid that you might want to have. All right, stir that up one last time. Yes, that looks good. All right, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put the top on the Instant Pot. I'm going to make sure that it's set to sealing. And then I'm going to turn off the saute, push the button that says manual, and I did these gizzards last time at 40 minutes under pressure cooking, and it worked out beautifully. I might experiment with going a little bit, thank you baby, a little bit less time, but the 40 minutes worked great. On a regular stovetop pressure cooker, you probably wouldn't need that much time. You could probably go at that pressure cooker's normal thing, which is usually between 12 and 15 pounds. You probably could go for about 30 to 33 minutes and it would work great. If you're doing it on the stovetop or in the oven as a braise, I would say go as low temperature as you possibly can, and then probably let it go for a couple hours, because again, you want to break down the tough muscle of the gizzard. All right, I'm going to let that go, and then I'm going to let it naturally pressure release. One nice thing about the Instant Pot is after it does the natural pressure release, it will still keep warm. So for instance, if you're doing this in the morning and you go to work, you're going to come home to a nice warm dinner. It won't hurt it at all, and it will be even more luscious and delicious. But once it's done, those gizzards, a tough muscle, will be delightfully tender and absolutely delicious. Okay, so the gizzards are done, and I went ahead and did a quick batch of rice in the Instant Pot. So first I'm going to do some rice over here. Right over there. Then I'm going to take some of this gizzard, and it actually came out pretty soupy, so that's fine, especially when over rice. And there we go. Let me take out one of the pieces of gizzard though and show you just how tender it is. There we go. Fork tender. And believe me, it's a mouthful of lusciousness. Anyway, thanks for watching the video. I hope you make the recipe and use this meat that a lot of people don't. It really is delicious, and you will enjoy it, I'm sure. Have a good day. And when the cooking is done, the kitchen is clean.